What is good, everybody? Happy Saturday afternoon. I'm Mac, and I'm back. Another live stream, another collab for yinz, guys, here on this rainy Saturday afternoon over here at my place, at least, as it is week 5. One of the biggest and most intense rivalries in all of football between the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers going at it tomorrow afternoon at Heinz Field in Pittsburgh. And to my right, longtime subscriber of mine, very good friend of mine in Peekay. The only downside with him is that he's a Ravens fan. So, how's it going, buddy? Long time, long overdue to have a collab with you, man. How you doing?
You're doing amazing, man. How are you? You're one of my close friends, too. A long-time subscriber of you. You're the best of the best. Only downside, you're a Steelers fan. But, hey, that makes it a great rivalry.
That's right. I feel like it's just when you get two people that are just knowledgeable football fans and, like, they're rival fans or, like, they're opposite conferences of each other, I just feel like they work so well with each other. It's like one of those, like, opposites attract kind of things.
I agree. I couldn't agree more, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as always, I'm going to start with the history between these two, as if I can pull up the thing real quick, or I'm probably just going to have to Google it. But yeah, as always, I go over the history matchup between the they've only been playing each other since 1996, so it really is incredible how big this rivalry has become in less than 30 years, as I found the link right here. So I didn't have time to make the thumbnail. So, the all-time matchups between these two, as they first met on September 8th in 1996, a 31-17 Steeler victory. The last time they met was back on New Year's, a 16-13 Steeler win where Kenny Pickett had the game-winning drive against the Ravens. And Steelers have the all-time advantage in the series at 33-25. Of course, they've met in the playoffs 4 times, with Pittsburgh taking 3 out of the 4, which came in 2001, when the Ravens were the defending Super Bowl champs. The Steelers beat them 27-10. Then, of course, probably the biggest matchup between these two came in the 2008 AFC Championship. Troy Polamalu's pick 6 on the Ravens solidified the Steelers to a Super Bowl victory in Super Bowl 43, a 23-14 Steeler win. And in my opinion, the best matchup between these two came in the 2010 AFC Divisional, where the Ravens had a 21-7 halftime lead. The Steelers came out in the second half roaring, and they got the job done, 31-24, punctuated by a helmet catch by Antonio Brown, believe it or not. But the last time these two met in the playoffs, you got to go back to the 2014 wild card, where the Ravens finally got the upper hand, 30-17, as the defense just suffocated from there on, and they never looked back. And in Pittsburgh, the Steelers have the edge all-time, 19-12, and surprisingly in Baltimore, the Steelers also have the edge by a single game at 14-13. So it really, like I said, it really is just incredible how in less than 30 years who have just really put the NFL on watch with being one of the biggest rivalries in the NFL.
I know, it's amazing. And I'll say, the best part of this rivalry is, if you don't mind me chiming in, is usually games like razor-thin margins, And in 2008, when you swept us, it was a few yards differently. It was a few yards between a Pittsburgh sweep and a Baltimore sweep in 2008. So, yeah, so it's amazing how things came in inches. That's why most of these games are won in the trenches, I tell you.
Yeah, definitely. You never really see a blowout between these two. When it does happen, it's very rare when there's a blowout between the two. Like, I believe the largest victory of all time was back when the Ravens were in their second season. The Steelers won 37-0. But that was back when the Steelers, under Bill Cowher, we were a Super Bowl contender, and the Ravens, like I said, they were technically in their second season because we all know the connection between the Ravens and the Browns. I don't need to go over that, but you hardly ever see a blowout between these two. It's always defensive orientated. And a cool stat that I saw a couple weeks ago, that since the merger back in 1970, the Steelers and Ravens are 1-2 when it comes to the fewest points allowed per game since the merger. It's just incredible, like how these two defensively are able to field such strong and elite defenses.
Oh yeah, man. Especially, I missed seeing Troy Polamalu, Ray Lewis play, Ed Reed. That was James Harrison. I say my favorite Steeler of all time for you guys is on your team is Troy Polamalu or James Harrison. I tell you, I absolutely liked them, loved them. They were really men of integrity, and they really knew how to bring it on the field.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I think, obviously a lot of people just immediately point to the defense when these two go at it. But, I think the thing with me, with this rivalry, that really held it in check was Big Ben, because, sure, you had Polamalu making great plays. You had James Harrison always getting to Flacco. You had Terrell Suggs sacking Big Ben the most out of his entire career, and Suggs was the guy that Big Ben took the most sacks to. Ray Lewis was always a big key. Ed Reed was always a big key. So people always think of the defense, but I think Big Ben was the guy who really held this rivalry in check because he was always the biggest target with Baltimore's defense.
You could say that again because always amazing. We thought we had Ben dead for rights, and he managed to escape, scramble out, either run downfield or boom a pass deep downfield to Antonio Holmes, AB, Hines Ward, to name a few, Mike Wallace, to name a few. Let's go to receivers. I know that send the ball downfield to Martavis Bryant. Sorry to become a sore subject, but yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. So getting on to this matchup tomorrow afternoon. Obviously we had one of the worst performances I've ever seen the Steelers have, a 30-6 loss to the Houston Texans, a game in which we let not only a rookie quarterback destroy us in C.J. Stroud, and, to his credit, he's been playing pretty well to start off the season, and he's right up there, in my opinion, with Anthony Richardson for being the best quarterback in the draft so far. So, you credit him, but, with me, this has been a recurring theme time and time again with Mike Tomlin over the past couple of seasons, to where we're playing elite competition or we're playing teams that are like the Texans, where they're not amazing but they have promise with their future, and we just get dominated on all aspects. And then we take a look at our opponent in the Ravens, who you guys over there, you have you could make a Pro Bowl roster with the injury list that you have, and you still go over in Cleveland and dominate the Cleveland Browns. So, what are your thoughts about last week's performance?
I was pleasantly surprised that we pulled it off, actually, because initially, as you probably know, I picked us to lose, but then Deshaun Watson came out and was not playing, and I was shocked despite we held up well against Myles Garrett and J.R. Smith, former Raven. We held up very well. Lamar Jackson limited his mistakes. We were able to run the ball effectively, and we were able to play keep away with them. As long as and what's to say, our defense played lights out. We sacked the quarterback. We only held him to 3 points. I was pleasantly surprised over performance, to be honest with you. I thought it'd be a lot closer than that, but after the first half, I felt great about the game.
Absolutely. I thought that was going to be a big difference maker as well for the Ravens. I originally had the Browns winning that game as well, but when I was at the gym last Sunday and I got the notification on my phone that says that Watson was going to miss the game, and it actually turned out that he was cleared to play, but, he, I guess, said that he wasn't going to take the risk because Cleveland has their bye this week. But he's been getting a lot of heat from, he's been getting a lot of heat from his teammates because they're like, oh, he bailed on us. He left the rookie quarterback out to dry. So, I don't really know what to make of it. But at the back of my mind, I knew that was bad news for Cleveland. So that's why I actually switched to Baltimore to win that game. And needless to say, it did not. It didn't disappoint me. But yeah, with us, I mean, it was just a disaster from the get-go. We had no answer for anything as far as the Texans threw at us offensively. They were down five linemen in that game, and they even had one of our former guys in Kendrick Green, who's easily a top 5 worst draft pick of all time in the history of our franchise, if you ask me. And we can't generate any – I mean, we were generating pressure, but, we can't bring up a single sack on C.J. Stroud. And it's very uncharacteristic for us because knowing that the rush, the pass rush has been our bread and butter with defense over the past 3-4 years now. So I found that to just be incredibly alarming that we weren't able to cash in on something like that.
I was shocked he had 0 sacks. I was looking at the score sheet. I'm like, no way, man, because you're Blitzburg defense. You should be top there with sacks with T.J. Watt and Alex Highsmith, and he's my current favorite player. I need to use the restroom. I'll be right back, okay?
All right, no problem. But yeah, I mean, I don't even know where to begin fully with last Sunday for us because it was just pitiful from the get-go. Raider Ben, what's going on, brother? Thanks for tuning in. Secret Underdog, how you doing, man? Thanks for tuning in. I'm doing okay. I do apologize for the late start because, number one, I was doing my workout this morning. Then I had to go do some shopping. And then I found out, hey, you need to restart your computer because, it caught a virus. And the last thing I want is to not only pay for a new motherboard, but to have my computer get a virus as well. So I do apologize for the delayed start. But, yeah, man, it's us and Peekay going at it. Looks like he's back. He just had to go use the John real quick. But yeah, in short, it was just really, really bad for us last Sunday. So in this matchup right here against us tomorrow, knowing that our pass defense is incredibly spotty, what do you think? Who do you think would make the biggest impact as far as going up against our secondary would do tomorrow?
Let me think, because knowing that Minka is your number one safety, I think he'll probably be on Mark Andrews or Zay Flowers because against Cleveland, Zay Flowers directed a lot of attention with the defense, So I think it'll be Rashad Bateman or Beckham Jr. going downfield, getting some deep shots, So I was thinking, I read this thing on Behind Skill Turn, reading this thing with Ballmer beat down. I said that if we need to do it, the Ravens want to go far. If there's a chance to really take out shots downfield against your corners like Patrick Peterson and Levi Wallace. Did I get the names correct?
Yeah, Levi Wallace. But, yeah, Zay Flowers has definitely been, a big bright spot for the Ravens because, the thing I've noticed about the Ravens is that, they draft wide receivers the way that we draft corners. At least so far. I mean, I'm not going to fully judge that yet with JPJ because he's a rookie. But, ever since Kevin Colbert stepped in here back in 2001, the Steelers haven't had a good track record of drafting corners. And, the Ravens, drafting receivers hasn't been their, brightest spot as far as receivers go as well. And when they do get a good receiver, it's usually through free agency or they get it through a trade or something like that. And I know that I know a lot of Ravens fans were high on Odell Beckham coming in, but with him starting off the season injured and having to rely on Rashad Bateman, who's just been a non-factor. Like, what are your thoughts on Bateman so far?
Well, I think Bateman's totally come back from his injuries. Because remember last year when he got injured, he was doing really well. He was going off then. But I think Rashad will start getting it back together soon because he had a bit of a setback with his hamstring. But I'll imagine that since we're more into Todd Monken's offense, I think Rashad Bateman could be an X factor tomorrow, if I'm being honest with you. Because look, we can have a matchup against Levi Wallace or Patrick Peterson and take a few intermediate shots or deep shots downfield with him. Because once he gets the ball open field, he's healthy. He's actually quite reliable. Maybe I'm being a homer here, but I'm just giving you my thoughts.
Oh, no, you're totally fine. I mean, there's no such thing as being a homer when it comes to, my collabs right here. But, like, another thing, another player on that Ravens offense that really just has kind of flown under the radar, at least in my opinion, has to be Mark Andrews. I mean, he's been one of your most productive targets. He's one of the best tight ends in the league, in my opinion, that's not named Travis Kelce. And I don't know, it just kind of seems like whenever we went up against Mark Andrews, he never has made like a huge impact against us. So do you like a potential Mark Andrews on Minkah Fitzpatrick matchup?
Actually, yes, that's what I'm thinking. 110%. Actually, I think that Minkah will be on Mark for the majority of the game, so I think Mark won't have much of an impact tomorrow. But however, it gives us an opportunity for other receivers who've been injured or coming back to really take off. You know what I mean? And maybe I'll back up the tight end Isaiah Likely would become someone falling on the radar too, because he's a number 2 tight end. He hasn't done much lately, but give him a few more chances. I'm sure he'll get back in the groove of things.
Yeah, I kind of see this in a similar way for week 1 for us, where where it had to come down to Minkah versus George Kittle. You're looking at the same thing right here. If Tomlin can pull his head from out of his where and just puts the right guys on the right players, then definitely you got to make sure that Minkah, with him not being his target as much anymore, people, teams treating him like he is the best safety in the league. I mean, you got to use him where he's most advantageous and that goes with, going up against tight ends or short screen passes or whatever. So I feel like, him going up against Mark Andrews definitely has to be a key matchup break, for this game. I've heard that possibly Broderick Jones can be getting his first start with us tomorrow afternoon, which is something that I've been screaming over for the past couple of weeks to do so, because, like, I don't agree with keeping him out for the first couple of weeks of the season just because of the gauntlet that the Steelers would have to go up against with pass rushers. But I did understand it, because, you don't want to have like a baptism by fire when it comes to a rookie left tackle like that. But at some point, you gotta take the training wheels off him. You gotta get him going against, these kind of pass rushers that are going to test him, because at training, I'm not the kind of person that likes to say, well, we did this in the preseason or we did this at training camp or whatever. But when Broderick Jones was going up against Alex Highsmith at training camp, sure, he was losing the battles with Highsmith, but you see, that's how you build experience. You lose some of the battles and you keep going up against it, so that way hey, this guy's a bull rusher, so I have to go max protect on my quarterback to not get him killed in this, to not get him killed. So I think that Broderick Jones definitely has to get his first start tomorrow. JPJ definitely has to play in the secondary some more, and get Darnell Washington up on the O-line as well, because that's what we took Darnell Washington for, basically to be our 6th man on the O-line. So with all that being said, if Kenny Pickett was to start tomorrow afternoon, which thankfully he did avoid a serious injury, I do not think Kenny Pickett should start tomorrow afternoon, because kind of in the same way well, maybe not in the same way with Deshaun Watson last week because Watson was cleared to play. But we don't know fully if Kenny Pickett is cleared to play tomorrow, but there is speculation that he could play. But I say, don't let the guy, don't throw him in there tomorrow. Don't risk it. He's banged up because next week we have our bye week. So, like, do you expect to see Kenny Pickett tomorrow?
I fully expect to see him unless I'm told to the contrary, because I was told when I saw that we're expecting to play Kenny Pickett tomorrow. But you have a point about Kenny Pickett. I don't want him to get injured, because, look, big fan of the guy. He definitely has a lot of potential and everything, and I'm glad his injury was not severe, And I'm also worried about his –
Oh, no,
sorry,
go ahead.
I'm just worried about our passers. Our passers got Jadeveon Clowney, going against Jadeveon Clowney and a bunch of other great pass rushers on our team. We could potentially get – let me see. We got Jadeveon Clowney, and there's not one player on our defense that has over 3 sacks. You need to be careful, worry about all our defenders. You know what I mean? Because we're just our defense is looking not too bad this season. If I'm being honest with you, I was pleasantly surprised how good our defense is.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I like I said, I would not have Kenny start tomorrow because, like I said, we have our bye week after this week. That just gives him extra time to fully heal. Because, like, I really did think that injury looked worse than it did just by looking at the angle that CBS was showing with it. And, like, if you were in the stream last Sunday, then you would have heard me be like, that's, an ACL right there. But it was just the angle that CBS was showing that just made it look worse than it was. Obviously, me with Kenny Pickett, it's like, a lot of Steeler fans are starting to give up on the guy already. And I'm not fully there yet. Like, these are my honest thoughts on Kenny Pickett. I'm not fully there yet. But as the weeks go by, like, I see a guy who has gone from looking like a rookie quarterback who, he made his rookie mistakes last year. It's understandable. But he picked up the pace towards the end of last year, and that's why he had a successful second half of the season that he closed out with. But ever since week 1, like, I've been seeing this guy take steps backwards with his production. Like, we know that he can move around in the pocket. We know that he's got good mobility in the pocket. But the thing is, it's like he's flushing himself around when he doesn't really need to. He's staring down receivers. He's making poor decisions with the football. And, instead of just doing the basic things like, oh, I'm being chased by a pass rusher, I'm going to try and force it to George Pickens, who can make a great play in multi-man coverage like that. But defenses are starting to pick up on that. And Kenny Pickett, therefore, is, turning the ball over more. A lot of people are saying, well, that's just Matt Canada's offensive play calling because it involves a lot of, scrambling around in the pocket and, moving your legs around. But you got it, that's just Kenny Pickett's play style as well. And that's something that he needs to abandon if he's going to be any kind of success in this league. I mean, long story short for me with Kenny Pickett, I want to believe in the guy. I like him, but it's getting harder and harder and harder for me to defend him as the week going by, with seeing that he's just taking steps backwards with his production.
I get that, but I think Kenny needs to learn just to really calm down, stop running around so much, scrambling, because maybe he should just make sure. I think first, hopefully, the offensive line gets better, so we start trusting protection a little bit more if he wants to get better. Make sure he gets blocked up a little better, and make sure not force ball George Pickens. Maybe when Deontay Johnson comes back, and then maybe he'll have a little more options to go to, and maybe he should start working out with other receivers. So just get George Pickens double covered. He has other outlets. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And, that's what I want to believe. That's what the case is with Pickett because, we know that this O-line sucks. We know that it blows. But, you got to put blame on the quarterback as well. I mean, it's not the O-line's fault that, he's staring down receivers and he's making poor decisions with the ball. Like, we can blame the O-line for the amount of times that he's gotten sacked because, over here, I mean, you make all these moves in the offseason to bolster up the O-line, mainly getting Isaac Seumalo from the Philadelphia Eagles, and then you trade up with New England to get Broderick Jones in the draft. So like we're all wondering, how long does it take to fix up an O-line? Our O-line has been bad for like 4 years now. And, that was the same thing that we were saying about Big Ben in the twilight. It's like, oh, he got it, oh, he's taking sacks because the O-line sucks. Oh, the run game sucks because the O-line sucks. But you got to put blame on the quarterback as well. And now to talk about Lamar Jackson with the Ravens, I mean, Lamar does really well against the Bengals. He does really well against the Browns, kind of like, what Big Ben did. I mean, that's just what he did. He owned the state of Ohio, which is what Lamar's did. But against us, I don't know if it's like a mental block that Lamar has against us or if it comes down to our coaching knowing the type of quarterback that Lamar is. But what do you chop down Lamar's, I'm not going to say lack of success, but how do you chop down why Lamar has struggled against the Steelers early on in his career?
It's a variety of things, actually, because you probably with Steelers, there's always some unique defense he doesn't quite see, and you do a good job baiting him, so he starts to think the receiver's open, and he ends up forcing the ball into coverage. Against 2019, his worst game in 2019 was against you guys in Pittsburgh, and he kept forcing the ball into coverage a few times, or just holding the ball a little too long. But instead of throwing the ball, sometimes Lamar played hero ball a little too much, and Minka Fitzpatrick and defense managed to take advantage of him, like wanting to make something out of nothing when it's not really there to be had. So I think also Greg Roman, we have the best offense ever, and to be fair, Lamar hasn't played you guys in almost 2 years now, so. Mm-hmm. We'll see how things are different this year, We have a new offensive coordinator, and we're having our offensive line come back together. Like Ronnie Stanley's going to be back to the game and everything like that. We got the receivers back. So we'll see how things are. I think it's just maybe because of the mental games you all play, and also because there's some things he doesn't really see with other teams, per se,
Yeah, I can hear you right there. I think, in my opinion, like, the Steelers have always had a bad history of going against mobile quarterbacks. And we all know that, Lamar is a really good two-way quarterback. And I say that now because a lot of people were just like, oh, Lamar's a running back. All he does is just run with the ball. But, I'm starting to see the progression with Lamar's throwing and his accuracy with the ball, because in my opinion, this is the best arsenal of weapons that he's had throughout his career so far. And a lot of it probably does have to do with Greg Roman just being the predictable OC that he was over there. But like you said, sound like Mike Tomlin here. Obviously, you got a new offensive coordinator, but it seems like the Ravens are starting to evolve more into that passing style kind of offense, and Lamar's thriving with it. But to me, the reason why that he really hasn't had great numbers against the Steelers in the early parts of his career, sure, the number of times that he has played us has a lot to do with it, because he's only played 3 games against us in his career. And, the other times he's either been injured or it was a coach's decision to not have him play, like in the final week of 2019 in Lamar's MVP season. The Ravens were resting their starters, and of course, RG3 took us to the woodshed in that game. But I feel like it comes down to how the defense on our part is able to pick up on two-way mobile quarterbacks and how they're able to adjust to it. Because I feel like putting a spy on a guy like Lamar, when that when he's not surveying the field and he's not, he's not being a one-read quarterback, the players on the defense know that, hey, it's time for him to take off and go, because, they know that he's a dangerous threat with his legs. And that's why back in the day when we had Robert Spillane, we could put a spy on him. And when Devin Bush was actually trying with us before he tore his ACL in 2020, it's like, hey, Devin Bush can be that guy. And I think that's a big reason why we picked up Quan Alexander in the off season as well. And even going back further to that, Miles Jack. We need to have that kind of linebacker that can drop into this, who can drop into zone and who can drop into that, nickel coverage guy. So we can go up against a quarterback like Lamar like that. And that's a good move on Omar Khan's part right there. But that goes down to coaching when it comes to putting our best guys on your best guys right there. And we just haven't seen a whole lot of Quan Alexander doing that so far. Mainly it's been Landon Roberts who's been plugging up the hole. But, again, that just goes back to scheming and coaching because Mike Tomlin calls all the shots on defense.
Yep. And what's to say about that? Also, you brought up a good point with defense. TJ Watt, also another thing is TJ Watt managed to collapse the pocket very fast in Lamar. So I'm going to run this by you. I think my Ravens would Todd Monk. I think we would try to do some runs at TJ Watt so we pull him into play action. That should take him out of play a little bit, and that should give us a little more time to go downfield. Because we did with Myles Garrett and Zadarius Smith last week. We kind of pulled him into the runs, so we kind of distracted him with a play action so we can either go downfield or anything like that,
Yeah, for sure. There's something else that I wanted to talk about specifically with the Ravens, and it comes down to the coaching matchup. It's Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh. These two have been, going at it for the last 15 years now, I think. And Robert, what's going on? Thanks a lot for tuning in. He says, hey, man, your Tomlin rant the other day was awesomely accurate. I mean, was I wrong about what I said? But
no, it was amazing. I gotta say, that's your best rant ever, Mac. That's my favorite rant of you going off on Mike Tomlin. It was absolutely sick. I was cracking up the whole time.
Yeah, I know I got a lot of new subscribers from that because, going into last week, I was in the 1,200. I was almost at 1,200. Now I'm over 1,300. So, that week definitely, I don't know what people want to tune in my channel for. If they just want to see me, rage or rant or yell or scream or give insightful analysis on my teams, I don't know. But, whatever. But, getting back to what I was saying, Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh. A lot of people always say that, well, these two are 1A and 1B when it comes to who has the best head coach in the AFC North, because the Browns, it seems like they've gone through a head coach like every other couple years. The Bengals, they had long-term instability with Marvin Lewis before they finally, dumped him for Zach Taylor. But when it comes to consistent and when it comes to head coaches that have at least had some kind of stability in this division, it's always been Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh going at it with each other. So, who do you think, in your honest opinion, is the better organizer, the better schemer, and just overall the better coach when it comes to Tomlin and Harbaugh?
That's very tough. You gotta give me a few minutes with that one because I can see arguments for both Mike and John being the best, Because look, because honestly, I know you got rants about Mike playing down the competition or laying too much drama and spew, but however, Mike has in the past I know you get mad at us, he's never losing record. He's able to rally truth at certain times when the back's against the wall, That's why I picked Pittsburgh to win this game because something tells me that Mike Tomlin's going to get the whole team's attention, and then they're going to bring on their A game out come tomorrow, But on the other hand, John does not tolerate any drama in the locker room whatsoever, He puts an end to it. They talk it out. They move on. And John knows how to put people into success. He knows how to really bond with the players, So that's a really tough question. But if I'm going to have to pick one, I guess I'll go with John because John has a lot less drama, There's a lot less drama, and he knows how to really connect with the players per se. And no matter when all those injuries in 2021, we always played our best to the very end. More water, please, Abby.
More water. Sure.
Sorry about that. My waitress gave me water.
No, you're good.
Yeah, but I'll say John because he doesn't allow drama or any soap operas to really fester in the locker room. That's why. And also, he always gets his team motivated. No matter how many injury we are, we always come out to bring out A game. Because look, at Cincinnati, I thought we were gonna get out doors wall by Cincinnati week 2, but we got in there and avenged that playoff loss. And we were down our left tackle, our center, and half our best secondary, and a lot of our receivers, and we still pulled it off.
Yeah, for sure. And Robert says you're new to being a Tomlin critic, but if you look back at the last 13 years, you'll see that Colbert provided enough talent, except drafting corners, for the Steelers to have won at least 2 more Super Bowls. Well, Robert, I'm actually not new to being a Tomlin critic. This is something that this is actually my second channel, Robert. I used to have an older channel from back in the day that actually got taken down because of copyright. And on that channel, I was coasting on I was nearing 3,000 subs. But a lot of my older subscribers know that I was actually a pretty heavy critic of Mike Tomlin back in the day, and I still am. But like the difference between now and then was that back then I criticized Tomlin when I did, but I still gave him the benefit of the doubt because I felt like at that time he was the coach of the Steelers going forward. And more specifically with 2019, after I grilled him after our collapse of 2018, when we were 7-2-1, pretty much had the division locked up, took those 3 straight losses to the I believe it was the Broncos. I think it was to the AFC West, if I'm not mistaken. It was to Denver, the Chargers, and the Raiders, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
And then we lost. Yeah, and then after the Patriots game in 2018, lost to the Saints in New Orleans. That pretty much allowed Baltimore to clinch the division because it ended us with controlling our own destiny, where we won the final game of the season, but all the Ravens had to do was beat the Browns. So, like, that right there made me lose a ton of respect for Tomlin. And then going into 2019, I was like, this is probably Tomlin's last chance to prove something to me. And then Big Ben goes down for pretty much the entire season with his elbow injury, and that he needed pretty much Tommy John on his elbow, which took the whole year to recover from. And you're thinking at this point, well, now we don't have Antonio Brown. Now we don't have Le'Veon Bell. The Steelers are done. But after week 2, we make the trade for Minka to show that we're not going to tank. Tomlin still sees that this team can be competitive and that we can still be a tough team. And with the carousel of quarterbacks that had Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges, pretty much a quarterback for the whole season that year, we came, even though we finished 8-8, we were this close to making the playoffs. And I was like, you know what? This was the best coaching, some of the best coaching that I've seen Tomlin do, even if they couldn't finish in the end. And that revived a little bit of more faith in Tomlin for me moving forward, because I was like, maybe I was too hard on Tomlin, in the past. And, we just had a bad second half of 2018. But then 2020 comes, and we're 11-0 to start off the year. Then we go 1-5 the rest of the way. We lose to the Browns in the playoffs. The Browns didn't even have Stefanski in that game because I believe he had COVID. He had COVID. And that right there, Robert, for the long story short, that is what severely damaged my thoughts on Tomlin. And then last Sunday officially broke me for good with it. So, I am actually not a new critic to Tomlin. I have been criticizing him for years, and now it's like I've lost complete faith in him. He's going to have to do he's going to have to do a total 180 for me to have any sort of faith moving forward, because The difference, like I said, the difference between now and then is that I didn't want him fired back then because I felt like, you don't, if we're going to end up getting a rookie quarterback because Big Ben's in the twilight of his career, you don't give a rookie quarterback a new head coach. I was always an advocate of that, and I still am for it. But now I'm at the point to where, like, I do want him fired because now there's literally nothing showing me that he's the coach moving forward with us. So that's my take with Mike Tomlin for right now. But then you look at a guy like John Harbaugh, who, like you said, Peekay, he don't take any kind of crap from the locker room. He doesn't take any kind of drama. He's a good planner. He knows how to get players right back on the right track. If someone's acting up, he'll be the first to put his foot down and say, or if someone just isn't working out with the team, he'll just put his foot down and say, you know what, this isn't working out with you. Like he did with Marcus Peters. I mean, Marcus Peters just wasn't making the cut with the Ravens. They felt like he was being underproductive for what they got him there for, and they let him go. So I feel like that's the main parallel right there between Tomlin and Harbaugh, where Tomlin just keeps giving players chance after chance after chance, even when he knows that it's not working out with them. Harbaugh will be like, you know what, this ain't working, pal. We're going to move on from you.
You hit it right in the nose, Mac. That was a perfect way to do it. And also one thing I will say about John is when we were down, remember, I wanted him outgone after the 2018 season because we were starting off 4-5, Then Joe Flacco went down with injury, and then we brought Lamar Jackson in, and the whole team was revitalized. So at that point, I was sold on John. At that point, I was very happy he was extended with the team. After 2018, I wanted him gone, but I'm glad he proved me wrong.
Absolutely. And like if you heard the end of last season where Harbaugh was getting hammered with questions about Lamar Jackson, he always stood in the – Harbaugh is also a guy who believes in his players. Mike Tomlin doesn't really strike me as that kind of coach that does, because like Harbaugh was getting bludgeoned with questions about, what are you guys going to do with Lamar Jackson? Is he still going to be on the team moving forward? Are you guys going to shop for him? Like, what are you going to do with him? He stood up in the press conference and he's like, Lamar's our guy. That's not up for me to decide if we're gonna, move on from him. That goes to the front office. So like John is the type of guy to where like he'll give you an answer, but he also knows who to hold accountable. And that's another big critic with Mike Tomlin right there, is that he doesn't know who to hold accountable. Like you see it a couple years ago where Chase Claypool and Juju are on TikTok and they're, skipping practices so they can do the stupid milk carton challenge or whatever. And Tomlin just completely ignores it. And whereas, like, if they did that in Baltimore with John Harbaugh would get on their case right away about it.
Absolutely, he would have, because he wouldn't tolerate that nonsense. Because, look, it's a distraction, And one time, after you guys beat Kansas City in the playoffs, Antonio was live streaming your locker room. I think John would shut it down right away. He would have told him, yelled at him privately, said, Antonio, that's not going to fly here in Baltimore. And I can't believe he let Juju dance on people's logos. Like, that's so disrespectful. Against Jacksonville and Dallas that year, you could have got away with it because they were tanking. But doing against Buffalo and Cincinnati, that's asking for trouble.
Absolutely. You just don't do that. I mean, when it also came against the Browns in the playoffs, you heard Tomlin say stuff like nameless gray faces. The players were chiming in on it too. Juju's infamous, the Browns is the Browns stuff. After the game, Claypool was like, oh, the Browns are going to get smacked by the Chiefs. Buddy, you're the one that got smacked. Plain and simple. Like, yeah, I could never picture Harbaugh doing that to anybody, regardless of who it is in the playoffs, even if it's the Browns, even if it's a team that just barely squeaked in. I can't picture Harbaugh doing that. It's like, this is a great team that made the playoffs. They had a good run in the season. We got to go out there and take care of our business.
You're absolutely right. He does that too. And also, one time Chase posted on Twitter, "Losing never hurt of her." I'm like, dude, you're tempting fate by doing that. That's idiotic.
Yeah, with me, it's like, okay, we were undefeated at the time, so I didn't think too much of it. I'm like, okay, he's a young kid, just let him have fun or whatever. But then, so like with me, it's not so much that he tweeted it, but when we finally lost our first game of the season, everyone, of course, was grilling him on Twitter for it. It's like, dude, you make a post like that, you lose a game, you're going to get grilled for it. So just be ready, But he deflected back at every single answer or every single retweet. And he's saying, like, no, I'm still undefeated because I fulfilled my dream of being in the NFL. So no, I've never lost before. It's like, dude, just shut the hell up. The team you played for lost a game. There's no deflecting from that. Just take your loss like a man. And like with me, like, that I used to be in the TTC, that I used to play with fire like that, but that was the community that I was in. Like, I talk trash about my opponents. My team failed to back me up. It's like, go ahead, take a swing at me in the comments. I trash talked your team. My team proved me wrong. I'm ready to face the music.
That's why I like your channel when you were in TCC, because you always were very honest with the team. You were upfront. When you made a mistake, you owned up to it. That's why I always had a lot of respect for you. That's why ever since I saw your videos at TCC, that's why I liked you. That's because I saw your videos since 2018, 2019. And ever since then, I always loved them. You were right up front with it,
Absolutely. I mean, that's just how it goes. You win, you get to gloat some more, you can show respect. However, like, the ball's in your court when your team wins. Like, you can act however you want when you win. But when you lose when you trash talk and you lose, you better be ready to face the music, and you have no other choice than to say, I was wrong. Go and let me have it.
You're absolutely right. That's I feel the same way too. But when I win, I try to I try to be with class. I glow a little bit, but I have some class too, because I know I'll see that team again, and I'll better you take the flack that where a team were to beat me again. So you're absolutely right about that one. I like it when you go against Raven Red Zone in particular, Bob and Kevin. Those hilarious when you roasted Bob and Kevin. And and honestly, I couldn't stand them. They were like, really? You guys are a little too delusional.
Yeah, fun times. But we're 48 minutes in now, so just a quick question before we leave it up to the chat here. So what are your predictions for tomorrow?
How about you, Mac? You go first. Can you tell what do you think the score's going to be tomorrow?
Well, I'll be honest with you. Usually I'm pretty confident that we can beat the Ravens, but just by the way that we've played and just by the press conference that Tomlin had on Tuesday, I don't see us getting the win. I mean, the Ravens, they always play us tough in Pittsburgh. I'm not saying that it's going to be a complete blowout. I think it's going to be typical Steelers-Ravens, low-scoring defensive standoff. There's going to be a lot of big hits going at it tomorrow, and I think that whoever makes the least amount of mistakes is going to come out with the victory. And the Steelers offensively, we've made a lot of mistakes this year. We haven't been able to really capitalize when the other team makes a mistake. And, that I think that's just the parallel right there. The Steelers, we can't feast on other teams' mishandles. The Ravens, they are the team that's able to do that. I hate to say it, but I think Baltimore comes out with the win tomorrow. I just think that they're the better overall team. Not saying that I'm going to sit here and root for us to lose just so I look right and because I took the Ravens and pick them as well. I would never do that. I would never. The Steelers are the only time in my life where I want to be wrong, So I hate to say it, but I think the Ravens come away with the win tomorrow. But, of course, I'll be sitting here streaming, rooting my ass off for the Steelers. But I think Baltimore gets the win. I think we're looking at, like, maybe a 17-13 type of game.
Yeah, I honestly think you guys are going to pull it off tomorrow, 20-17. Chris Boswell game field goal at the buzzer because, look, I don't know why. I'm just – when we're talking about play you guys, I always get nervous, because you always play us tough, and you've always had Lamar's number. Unless I see Lamar prove me otherwise wrong tomorrow, I think you guys can pull it off tomorrow, to be honest with you, because my pick'ems, I pick you guys to beat us. Now, I really hope I'm wrong. I'm not going to root for the Steelers, but I'm just giving you my honest takes here.
Yeah, so it kind of seems like you and I are in the opposite.
Yes, we are, but we shall see what happens then. I want to be wrong, so we'll see what happens tomorrow. But either way, this will be a good game tomorrow.
I hope so, because, a lot of people don't say this is the best rivalry in the NFL for nothing.
Absolutely. That's what got me in football. Ravens Steelers, Ray Lewis, Hines Ward, Troy Polamalu, Ed Reed. Seeing them go against each other, it's always been fun doing that, And I did. What to say? So, yeah, seeing Big Ben retire, it felt a little strange seeing him not on the field anymore, but it was time for him to go, At the end of 2021 season.
Absolutely, yeah. So we're 50 minutes in now. So we're 50 minutes in now. So we are going until 3:30. So we're just going to leave the rest of the time up for the chat. Any questions that you guys have watching for either me or PK, go at it. It's open. It's open chat now. Just want to talk about the matchup real quick with PK, as I'm going to try and read some of the comments right here. Yeah, my Wi-Fi is being a little slow. I have to catch up to some of this. Daniel James, he says, what's going on, guys? These players don't have the right teaching under Mike and Matt. You can see it that way with the players with no confidence. I'm sick and tired of this curse in Pittsburgh. Again, that goes around coaching. Sometimes it has to do with the players themselves, Daniel. Like I mentioned earlier with Kenny Pickett. But again, a lot of it has to do with the fact that Mike Tomlin just kind of seems disinterested when it comes to getting these players ready, and he just hopes and he just kind of living, kind of like Bon Jovi, he's living on a prayer that they just figure it out under Matt Canada. That's not how it works. When you are the head coach of a football team, your number one priority is to set your players straight and to get them mentally prepared for any kind of task that they go up against. Sometimes you run into a buzzsaw, like week 1, we ran into the 49ers. In my opinion, they're the best team in the NFL. So sometimes you just simply get outplayed. You get outmatched. It happens. But when you're going up against a team like the Texans, who are rebuilding and they're feeling good about themselves, you have to give them a welcome to the NFL with a young quarterback like CJ Stroud, who still has not turned the ball over and who has been taking a lot of sacks behind that offensive line that the Texans had going in that game, and they just didn't execute. That goes to coaching.
There you go. And also, Dark Musicians, thanks for the nice comment about my Santa hat. Much appreciated. But you never know. Sorry to cut you off. Mac, I saw that nice comment by Dark Musician. I wanted to recognize it.
Oh, no, I was done talking.
All right, let me see what else we have here. I see a comment here about Leedy 1. My man Leedy. Ravens 30, Steelers 13. Mike Tomlin announces new big change. Renovated bathroom stall and different structured lockers. You're funny, Leedy. But yeah, knowing Mike, probably not much is going to change, at least until the offseason. But we'll see what happens tomorrow. I'm nervous about the game, but I'm excited to see tomorrow either way. And Mac, I'll probably log into your channel for a few minutes because I'll be at the bar most likely.
Yeah, for sure. But how come I can see Tomlin actually doing that, lady? Let's see. Robert says, as Public Enemy saying, what time is it? Don't believe the hype. Michael Petaway, Tomlin is nothing but hype. Don't believe, make it. Don't believe Mike. Yeah, I mean, like I said the other day, Tomlin, if you've seen one Tomlin press conference, you've seen them all. Because it's the same thing every single time that there's a press conference. He'll start off by giving what he says a brief synopsis of what happened the previous game, and then he'll go like, now looking at our next opponent, in this case with the Ravens, it's like, oh, we're very familiar with playing the Baltimore Ravens. I'm like, you better be very familiar with playing them because you play them twice a year. They're a division rival. I mean, Tomlin just thinks that he can just throw a whole bunch of words around and just make sense out of it, when really all he's doing is just wasting everybody's time. He's just saying the stuff that the media just wants to hear.
You're right, and also, Matt, you brought up a point. Mike Tomlin's performance is Mike Tomlin's press conference is usually pretty hilarious, but usually just a bunch of fluff. Usually, he says he's great with words. It's amusing. But after a while, as a Steelers fan, I would imagine it gets frustrating. A while, like, really, Mike? What else? You said that last time, and nothing really has changed.
Yeah, it's like you're given an S. It's like you're in college or something. Well, I don't know. I don't know if you did this in college, but like it was part of my degree in college because I have a BA in promotional communications. But like I took a lot of speech classes in college because that's what my degree's in, public speaking, communications, in that realm. There were a lot of instances where I had to speak in front of the class about a topic that I had to choose. And sometimes it was time sensitive. It was like, you got to keep this under a half hour, or this can't be any longer than 10 minutes or something like that. Like, imagine if I just went up there and I just talked endlessly about stuff that had nothing to do with what my topic was about. And I just threw around different words, to just make myself sound smart. Like if I was talking about when Trump was in office at the time, it was like, oh, well, Trump is, I think that Trump should run in 2020 because of this. And then blah, 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 his wealth, blah, 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 his companies that he owns, blah, 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 the hotels that he owns in New York City. It's like, great. What does that have to do with him running for president?
Yep. Let me see what else here. Let me see what Tiger Raven says. Hey, shout out to you, Tiger Raven. I'm always nervous about when the Ravens play the Steelers. I have us winning 21-17 tomorrow, but I can see the Steelers possibly pulling it off. I'm with you on that one. I hope your prediction is right, Tiger Raven.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it just comes down to division familiarity because, I mean, like, these two have played each other 58 times. You can pretty much throw records out the window whenever they play. So, a lot of matchups are like that. Like, you never know for sure when it comes to divisional matchups, like AFC West matchups, NFC East matchups, especially, I guess unless it's the Cowboys and the Giants or the Eagles and the Giants. But, like, you get it. It's divisional matchups. You can throw records out the window, but all I'm saying is, man, I just do not have a good feeling about tomorrow.
That's fine. Well, we'll see what happens tomorrow. Either way, I'll say good game at the end of the day and be classy with you.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Let's see. Robert says it was 2 decades ago when the Steelers were actually a championship contender, but we were not contenders last decade, even though killer B teams had championship talent. Talent was mismanaged. Absolutely, Robert. And, that goes back to what I was saying earlier about Tomlin. The thing that really held me back from fully putting it on Tomlin was because even though we had those great offensive teams back in the day, I felt like the main reason that we didn't at least make it to a Super Bowl with that team when we really should have. I threw the entire defense under the bus. And a lot of my old subscribers can vouch for me when I say that. I threw the defense under the bus every single time because it was like our offense will absolutely win us games, But the reason we gave up 36 points to New England in the AFC Championship, it was the defense. We kept playing zone defense against Brady all night long in that AFC Championship game when Brady eats that for breakfast. The Jacksonville game in January 2018. The reason we lost that game, defense gave up 45 points, and they looked off against Blake Bortles of all quarterbacks. The offense scored 42 points. The Browns game in 2020, I'm like, well, literally the first play of the game, Marquise Pouncey snaps the ball over Big Ben's head in the end zone for a Cleveland touchdown, and the defense just showed that, it wasn't truly ready for the playoffs. I mean, you get what I mean? Like, I threw the defense under the bus, even going back to 2014, going back to 2015. We held the Bengals to 16 points, sure, but they gave up the biggest touchdown in the game to when A.J. McCarron found A.J. Green for the touchdown to give the Bengals the lead. So it's like I threw the defense under the bus, but looking back on it, the common denominator with Dick LeBeau and Keith Butler was that Mike Tomlin called all the shots on the defense. So it's like, yeah, you can blame. So if you're blaming the defense, you got to blame Tomlin for that as well, because Tomlin's in charge of the defense.
Yeah, sure. You're absolutely right about a good point about that one. Yeah, because your offensive killer beast was quite amazing, but the defense usually let people stay in the game a little longer than they should.
That's
I
right.
watched a bunch of your games against the Ravens Steelers game. We beat you guys in a wild card. The defense probably the reason we lost because Joe Flacco was going up and down the field with ease, like going to do whatever he wants. For the most part, a few sacks, he getting one silly turnover by Justin Forsett, but still. We still, for the most part, were able to put 34 points on you guys because the defense wasn't doing too much.
Ravens Flock, he says it will be a close game no matter how bad of a team. Yeah, definitely. I do think it's going to be a close game. I'll actually be surprised if it's a blowout.
Yeah, I'd be surprised too. So we'll be on the seats to the very end of it. That's what I think. But that's the best part of these games, Always like low margin, everything like that.
Yeah.
And the funny part is, you mentioned something.
Robert says hashtag bring back Bill. Hey, I'd love Bill Cowher to come back here, but there's no way he's leaving CBS.
And Matt, can I ask you something about that? What do you think of Bill Cowher as an announcer on CBS? I think he's pretty good.
I always liked him. I always thought he did a really good job with CBS.
I actually like Bill Cowher. I've always been a fan of him. Something about him was great. And one of my friends actually met your former quarterback Terry Bradshaw at a hotel one time.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and the one time he was walking down with his wife, Terry's wife Tammy. They slammed the door in his wife's face, and then Terry was out there like, "Hey," he walked over, was like, "Hey, you slammed the door in my wife's face." Like, he's like, "You want to fight about it?" And then my friend asked, "No, Terry, can I get a selfie?" He's like, "Sure," because he didn't know. He actually closed the door on Terry's wife by accident. It was pretty funny, but
yeah.
Terry was really nice. I like Terry Bradshaw.
Awesome.
And I actually met John Harbaugh at a game one time. He's really nice. He said I can call him John. Cool. He's really nice. Always had nothing but the utmost respect for John.
Yeah, that's cool. That's kind of like how I met Jerome Bettis actually about 5 years ago. I was at a Pirates game, and after the game, I just wanted to get something to eat before I went back home. And I stopped by Jerome Bettis's restaurant that he had at the time. It actually got closed down a couple years ago. But he had a restaurant at the time on the North Shore. And, I'm just sitting there and eating my food, and Jerome's walking by. He's just checking on everybody. He comes by my table. He goes like, "Hey, how's everything going?" And like, I did like a double take, and I'm like, "You're the boss." And like, yeah, like I actually talked to him for like 10 minutes or so. We just sat down. We just talked football, and he's a lot bigger in person, but like, he's such a nice guy. He's like the most chill, down to earth person you'll ever see in your life. And I wish I could say I got a picture with him, but I asked him if I could get a selfie with him, and he said no because he just wants to keep a low profile, which I understand completely. But, like, yeah, the boss is such a great guy.
I always liked him. He seemed like a great guy, and now I've proof because you're one of the most honest Steelers fans I've known. So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and also I'll tell you, Joe Flacco high-fived first Ravens game ever. I didn't have a camera with me, so I wish I took a picture of that, but that was still pretty cool. He high-fived first Ravens game. So, gotta say, most of the players I met, they seem pretty nice, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Robert says Tomlin should have been put on the hot seat within a year of letting Tim Tebow beat the much more talented Steeler team. I can agree with that, but, like, I blame more of that on my personal whipping boy and Ike Taylor, who I was never a fan of. I always thought he was very overrated, Robert, because he missed the angle.
Okay, well, he missed hot dog a little bit, okay?
He missed the angle on Demaryius Thomas that allowed him to score the touchdown. And a lot of people give Paul Malu crap for that play, but Paul Malu, that wasn't his guy, but it was kind of forced to be because Ike Taylor missed the angle on him. So, like, I can agree with that, but it's like I blame more of that on Ike Taylor. And then he says that hot seat should have become the electric chair by 2014 when coaching was providing garbage to the O-line. Remember garbage O-line Adams? Yeah, 2014. I mean, that was a very interesting year for the Steelers because, like, you had the best offense in the league that year. You had a quarterback throw for over 4,000 yards. You had a running back rush for over 1,500. A wide receiver have, I think it was over 2,000 receiving yards. I think that was an NFL first at the time. But again, Robert, that goes back to what I was saying earlier. At that time, while I did hold Tomlin accountable, I blame more of it on the defense because, like, we had a lot of aging players on that defense, and the defense just needed a rebuild at the time.
Yeah. Can I read Ty Raven's comment, Mac?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I can't wait to go to Ravens versus Bengals game in November with my best friend. Good for you, man. Actually, Tiger Raven, I'm going to the Lions game in 2 weeks in Baltimore. Actually, I'm going back to Maryland to visit my friends, and I'm seeing the lower end zone seat. So hopefully he can beat Detroit. But I think Detroit's actually really good this year. They're a lot better than I thought they would be this year. I guess the hype is real with them. But, hey, have a good time in the Ravens-Bengals game, man, and hope that we sweep them. But we'll see what happens because never count Joe Burrow out, even though he's a little dinged up.
Yeah, the Lions, I mean, you know, the Lions are actually a really good comparison of what the Steelers should be, in my opinion. Because, like, you look at the Lions, it's like, do they have superstars per se on their team? No, at least not in my opinion. But the Lions, they go out there and they play their asses off every single game because that's the kind of coach that Dan Campbell is. I'm a big fan of Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell reminds me a lot of Bill Cowher. You know, he's a tough guy. He's a strict head coach. He gets the most out of his players. And he's a guy who mentally toughens up his players every single game. And that's why Detroit plays as tough as they did. And that's why at the beginning I said the Lions were my surprise team of the year, and I thought they could win the NFC North. And so far, they're the best team in that division. Because, like, yeah, they don't have any superstars on their team, but they don't have to have superstars on their team. They go out there and they give you 60 minutes of football. Sure, they have bad games here and there, but more often than not, they will give you a football game every single time. And I think that's a good comparison for what the Steelers should be. Like, last year, the Lions were still like one of those teams where it was, you know, they're not quite there yet, but they play hard every single game. I think that's what the Steelers should be this year. You know?
That's a very fair point. You should be there this year. Hopefully my Ravens will be there this year too.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll be right back.
Okay. Robert says, hot seat take for Tomlin over 10 years too late. When Tomlin has regularly squandered championship talent for many of the last 13 years, a better coach would have won at least two. I completely agree with you there, Robert, especially considering the offenses that we had. And if Tomlin is the defensive-minded head coach that he is, then what more excuse can you give? Because if you're, like I said, if you're going to blame the defense, then you got to blame the coach because he's calling the shots on the defense. Yeah, the Lions are absolutely a fun team to watch. That's why I said they're my surprise team of the year. You look at that NFC North, I mean, Minnesota, they're off to a rough start. They got their first win of the year last week. The Chicago Bears, they're a bad team. They had a great night Thursday night, but they're still a really bad team. Green Bay, they're very watered down. So, I really do think that opens up the door for Detroit, and they're taking advantage of it so far.
Thanks for bearing with me. I'm back.
Oh, no, you're good. But a truly great Steelers head coach could have won three or four more Super Bowls the last 13 years with a great Colbert talent. Colbert provided Tomlin, yet Tomlin continuously mismanaged. That's a great point right there, Robert, because for as much crap that we all gave Kevin Colbert for not being aggressive as much as he should have every offseason, at the end of the day, he did provide Tomlin more than enough talent to succeed with what he had. I mean, the common theme with Steeler fans with Colbert is that, he's just, he's acting like, the team that plays down Federal Street like the Pirates do in the offseason every year, where they just sit on their hands and do nothing, and they just build through the draft. That was the common theme that we had. But looking back on it, Colbert drafted well, and he was able to find those late round gems and fix up the defense and get some more weapons for Big Ben to prolong his career. Tomlin continued to mismanage it. That's a great point. And now you get Omar Khan. I'm not going to say you hired Omar Khan, but you promoted Omar Khan to GM, which I can't say it enough. I'm not a fan of in-house promotions whatsoever, but this one I was, because Omar Khan did a really good job with making sure that we don't go over the salary cap. He was really good with budgeting. And he was just a really money-smart guy, which is something that you need to be in order to be a good GM. And Omar Khan, he did the same thing that Kevin Colbert did. The only difference is Omar Khan was much more aggressive in the offseason than Colbert was, with fixing up the O-line, fixing up the defensive backs, making these trades, sending down some less important draft picks to teams to get some players that could be advantageous to us, like Desmond King, who we still haven't used yet. And again, Tomlin continues to mismanage it. Robert says Tomlin is very disinterested and never puts in extra time, nor ever has his players put extra time in. Tomlin ain't never had a cot in his office, nor ever had a chart or iPad in his hands during games. It's becoming more and more apparent every week, man. And I can't stress it enough. These Tomlin apologists, they're running low on excuses for him. They really are. But yeah, I mean, that's something else that, and again, that goes back to what I was talking about earlier with Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh. If John Harbaugh got all the talent that Tomlin had, I think Baltimore could probably be sitting on about 4 or 5 rings right now.
Can I do a turkey club, please?
That's just my. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. Well, I think you have a good point. They're gonna have more rings there, but sometimes John can outsmart himself with his game decisions, being too aggressive, 4th down, to going for 2-point conversions, as we did against you guys in 2021, which lost us the game. Sometimes he can be a little too aggressive here, but hey, he lives and dies by the analytics.
Yeah, I think that's his biggest flaw in my opinion, because I mean, let's face it, no head coach is perfect, but the thing that always bugged me, the thing that I always thought held back Harbaugh is that he does overthink things a lot, and that, I'm not an analytics guy whatsoever. I never was. I'm a fundamentals guy. And I definitely think that with their first matchup back in 2021, don't overthink it. Like, I understand you're playing your biggest rival. It's at their house. Go for two, go for the win. I get it. But at the same time, you have the best kicker of all time at your disposal. You just scored a touchdown. You have no reason to believe that he's going to miss an extra point. Just kick the extra point.
Yeah, I was wondering. I was like, John, what are you doing, man? No. And then TJ Watt blew the play up.
Or I think it was actually Andrews that dropped it.
Yeah, but however, TJ got in the backfield pretty fast, is what I mean. And then Mark threw it to Mark, and then Mark dropped it. So I think it was both, actually. You're right.
Yeah.
But however,
I remember.
TJ did get in the backfield awfully fast, and we'll say that.
Yeah, that's why I'm not an analytics guy. I never was. I'm just old school. A lot of the younger fans, it's like, oh, the analytics, oh, this, that. I'm like, no, screw that. Football is won with fundamentals, and football is a game of inches. You have to have good fundamentals to be a good team.
You're absolutely right. You hit it right on money, but I would disagree on that. But I will say that analytics do help to some degree, but I wouldn't worship them the way John does. I'm like, well, John, just take the points here or just punt here. So defense is playing lights out. Let's not put them in a compromising situation,
Yeah, and that's something else. Like Tomlin, Tomlin's almost like a complete contradiction of himself, because one of his favorite, what we call Tomlinisms in his press conferences, we don't live in our fears. I mean, you've heard me say that a bunch of times on my channel when I'm mocking him. But he says that, and yet when you're down, in week 1 of 2019, when it was banner night in Foxborough, when we had to play the Patriots on Sunday night, you're at the goal line. You're down 20-0 in the third quarter. You got nothing else to play for. It's fourth down. The game's out of hand at that point. Just go for the touchdown. You got nothing else to lose. Even if you fail, the Patriots have to march down the length of the field to even score again. Just go for the touchdown. What Tomlin does is that he brings out Boswell and kicks the field goal. And those are the only points that we had for the night. I mean, there are times when kicking a field goal at the goal line makes sense. When you're up 20-0 and you get stopped at the goal line, it's you got stopped, but it's you know what? Just take the points. Just extend the lead. I get it. But when you're down 20-0, you need points badly to get back in the game, and you got nothing to lose. Just go for the touchdown, man. So that's what I mean. Tomlin's a complete contradiction of himself.
Oh, yeah, good. You're absolutely right about that point, too. But I would have gone for it. I was Mike. I'm just go for it. Because what if you lose? If you get it, we have a chance to march back into the game. If we don't get it, hey, at least we gave it a shot.
Yeah, and that's the difference. Even if – exactly. If you don't make it, at least you tried.
As I say, you miss every shot you don't take.
That's right. Just like Michael Jordan used to say.
That was Michael Jordan. Gotcha. I knew it was an NBA player. I wasn't sure who it was.
Yeah, it was MJ.
Yeah.
Tiger Raven says, I hated that decision to go for 2 for the win when you had Justin Tucker to kick the extra point against the Steelers in the first matchup in 2021. Yeah, I mean, I understand it. You're playing, like I said, I understand it. You want to go for the win. It's Steelers-Ravens. It's at their house. You want to go for the win. I get it. But, at the same time, just don't overthink it. You have the best kicker in NFL history. Just go for the extra point.
And I also know why we did, because our best corner, Warren Humphrey, got season-ending injury that game. So I guess we were worried we weren't able to stop you guys in overtime because you're moving the ball at will in the last drive. So I guess I understand it, but yeah, you just don't like the decision when it backfires on you. I guess it's a bad decision if it doesn't work, and a good decision if it does work.
Yeah, and something that I always never understood. Back in 2019, with our first matchup back in 2019, where
Let's do it.
it was the game where Mason Rudolph got knocked out cold by the Ravens.
Chips and beans, right?
Yeah. The game actually went to overtime, and the Steelers won the coin toss in overtime, but we deferred. And that just drove me insane. And when Tomlin was asked about that in the press conference when we lost the game, his reasoning for it was, well, I trusted our defense enough at that time because we forced 3 turnovers on Lamar Jackson and we were able to stop him after the first half of the game. It's like, cool, Tomlin. Ultimately it ended up working because we stopped them. But it's like, you go to overtime, you're not there to not lose. You're there to win. You win that coin toss, you don't get a second chance because ties still exist in the NFL. You win that damn coin toss, you better take the ball first. I don't care who you have at quarterback. That drove me insane when Tomlin did that.
That drove me crazy. Also, he was like, dude, what are you doing? You know? I was confused. I was shocked. You stopped us, but then Juju fumbled a ball on the next drive. Remember that? And
it wasn't it wasn't even Juju's fault. It was just a good play by Marlon Humphrey.
Yeah. And speaking of which, he's going to be back tomorrow, actually. Him, Marcus Williams, Ronnie Stanley, Odell, Rashad. So that's quite to be yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Dark Musician. That was first matchup of 2019. But Robert says, Damon Washington, piss poor fundamental tackling has been embarrassingly bad ever since Mike T and Artie II lied and said they let LeBeau retire. Equals same lie they told us about Bruce Arians. Yeah, Bruce Arians. I mean, why we let that guy walk will never register in my head because, like, when I first became a fan, Ken Wisenhunt was the OC, and I felt like he was the perfect offensive coordinator for the Steelers because, like, he was the kind of guy that would run the gadget plays. He was the kind of guy that would incorporate the sweeps and opening up the lanes for the running backs, and it translated well. He was a big reason why the Steelers won that Super Bowl against Seattle back in 2005, and he was a big reason and part of Big Ben's development because if you remember back in 2004 when Big Ben was a rookie and he was forced to be the quarterback after Maddox got injured, coincidentally enough against the Ravens, Bill Cowher changed the entire coaching staff, and he got in Ken Wisenhunt's face saying, buddy, we're making severe changes to our entire offensive game plan now because our quarterback's out, and now we have to go for a rookie. You have to make sure that this rookie is able to succeed because we took a gamble on him 11th overall. You have to make this kid succeed. And wouldn't you know, Ken Wisenhunt opened up the playbook more. He got more philosophical with the play calling, and he was a big reason for why Big Ben was able to succeed early on.
And then I think, did you play Ken Wisenhunt in the Super Bowl against Arizona in 2008? Wasn't Ken the coach?
No, Bruce Arians was OC in that.
I mean, Ken Wisenhunt was an Arizona head coach then, wasn't he at that point?
Yeah, he was the Cardinals coach, but Bruce Arians was our OC for that time.
Yeah, I always had a lot of respect for Bruce Arians. They were great offensive coordinators.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was a really good OC with us. And then, like, ever since I would say Todd Haley came over here, it started, a bad track record of, just questionable play calling. I mean, Todd Haley got a lot of crap over here because his play calling was just very questionable and very predictable. But looking back at it, I would much rather have Todd Haley. I would 100% have Todd Haley again than this magic 8 ball that sits up there in the press booth every game that calls the offense.
Yeah, I think Hopefully, maybe you guys get rid of Matt Canada this year. But when does Matt Canada's contract end? Out of curiosity.
It's supposed to be after this season, so fingers crossed after this season, Matt Canada's gone. But again, like, the only reason that he's really still here is because him and Tomlin are BFFs, because he got Tomlin's kid to college at Maryland, and his kid actually ended up transferring to Boston College. So at this point, at this point, the only reason Canada's still here is because Tomlin just owes him a favor. He's not the main point is Tomlin is not looking like a head coach right now. He's just looking like a best friend.
Hey, T. Thomas Selly too. Doing great, man. Thank you so much for a nice comment here, you know?
Dark Musician says, I'd rather have Haley too. Oh, all day. I'll take his questionable play calling over Matt Canada's inept play calling any day of the week. Robert says, what Bill Cowher is really suggesting when he made those fairly recent comments is that much extra time needs to be devoted by the Steelers head coach, and we never see Tomlin doing that personally. Absolutely not, Robert. Again, no accountability. All right. Well, right on, man. So I think that could actually be a good stopping point for the stream. But yeah, man, PK, it was a blast doing this with you, man. Again, like, in my opinion, long overdue to do a collab with you, man.
I had a lot of fun, man. This really made my day even better, you know? And you being late was perfect. I got to catch up with some old friends here. It was perfect timing, man. I got to get some other things done, then hang out here, gonna have some dinner here, then gonna head on back to my place. Thanks for understanding about me doing it at a bar. Come to this town every weekend. Very nice bar. Watch the games here.
Yeah, for sure. Usually I'm out Saturday nights, but looks like my friends aren't doing anything, so I got the whole place to myself. And tomorrow's actually 1 year since I actually moved into here, so like I probably want to get some cleaning going on here and probably catch some of the MLB playoffs that are going on right now. Like, I know the Orioles, I mean, they had a phenomenal season this year, and the AL playoffs go through them. They got a series with Texas coming up. But yeah, like, sit down, watch the playoffs, clean up the place a little bit, and then Sundays are always my relaxation days to just watch football or be with my friends. But yeah, like, I got nothing going on for this weekend, man, it looks like. But yeah, it was just great to be able to collab with you, brother.
And also one more thing, Rangers are beating the O's right now 2-1, bottom to fourth in Baltimore.
Really?
Yeah, just laying it up. But however, they were runner with 2 outs. Baltimore's a runner on second base with 2 outs. So we'll see what happens.
Wow. Texas ain't no joke.
No, they're not. So we'll see what happens. Thank you, Tiger Raven. It was great. Your comments are awesome, Tiger Raven. I love your videos, man.
Yeah, I know you're a Red Sox fan, though. But
I'm actually pulling for the O's this time. You know why? Because they're from Baltimore, so why not,
Yeah.
Just like the Red Sox, I was born in Boston. Like Peekay, you have to like the Red Sox. That's what my family told me growing up.
Oh, you were born in Boston. Okay.
Yes. That's why I like the Boston teams. That's why I root for Pats a little bit, but I'm more a Ravens fan, So that's what the difference between Boston and Baltimore with baseball and football, because I was born in Boston, lived in Maryland most of my life.
Yeah, it's kind of similar with me. I mean, I'm from Sharon, Pennsylvania, which is like right on the eastern Ohio, western Pennsylvania border. And over there, it's actually pretty divided between the Browns and Steelers. Like, they have broadcasting rights to both teams over there. But when it comes to baseball, I see a lot more Indians fans there than Pirates fans. So, like, I guess I'm a little bit of a minority over there because I'm a Pirates fan. But, like, Yeah, man. You know, when the Pirates aren't in the playoffs, I'll hope that the Indians do well. But you know, it's like the Pirates, should they ever make the playoffs, I can't imagine how excited I'd be again. Because the last time they made the playoffs, I was just starting college.
Yeah, man. I thought you would turn things around this year, but
Nope.
But yeah,
Nope.
And I saw you guys in Chicago against the Cubs actually because I went there for my birthday and I went to a Pirates Cubs game at Wrigley. It was a lot of fun.
We probably got killed in that game.
I'm afraid so. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, I'll let you enjoy your dinner and enjoy the rest of your Saturday, man. And I'll be live tomorrow night. All right.
Yeah, God bless you. God bless. Okay.
All right. Take care, brother. All right. Well, that was Peekay. Very good Ravens fan. Thank you all for tuning in here. I got to get some stuff done with my place, and then I'm just going to enjoy my Saturday night. But thank you all for tuning in. I am Mac, checking on out for the day. Have a good one, everybody.